This report raises the temperature. Mike Sargent, BBC News.
David Cameron has been criticised by one of his own cabinet colleagues over his plans for same-sex marriage. The Defence Secretary, Philip Hammond, says they've upset vast numbers of people and that there's a real sense of anger among voters. Downing Street says the Prime Minister's support for the plan for England and Wales is unchanged. But as our political correspondent Vicky Young reports, it's putting more pressure on Mr Cameron's leadership.
The institution of marriage is something to celebrate, says David Cameron, and should be available to everyone, straight or gay. It's a step towards a more equal society, say campaigners, but some Conservative MPs have accused the Prime Minister of a serious misjudgment. There's been a high-profile campaign against same-sex marriage, with hundreds of Conservative activists demonstrating their opposition. Senior Tory figures aren't holding back either. The Defence Secretary did nothing to tone down his language, insisting there was no great demand for this policy.
There is a real sense of anger among many people who are married that the government thinks that it has the ability to change the definition of an institution like marriage.
Opponents of the bill are gearing up for another battle when it returns to the Commons next week.
Some of us think it was a lunatic strategy to produce a gay marriage bill out of nowhere, having not put it in any manifesto, and given that I, and I'm sure many of my other colleagues, have not received a single letter from a single constituent on it for many, many years. It was not a priority.
For David Cameron, this comes after days of wrangling over another divisive issue, Europe.
The ayes to the right, 130.
More than 100 Tory backbenchers voted for a motion criticising the government for failing to mention an EU referendum in the Queen's speech. David Cameron might have hoped for a bit more support from senior ministers like Philip Hammond. A few days ago, he stirred up trouble with comments over Europe, and now he's put the boot in over gay marriage. Some Tory backbenchers accuse Mr Cameron of spending too much time picking unnecessary fights with the traditional wing of his party. Downing Street insists he's simply doing what he believes is right. And supporters of same-sex marriage insist the Prime Minister is on the right side of the argument.
I think the Conservative Party is modern, it is in the centre ground, and we are doing the right thing. I think that it's important that everybody in this country has the opportunity to get married. It's the right thing to do.
Mr Cameron's task is to keep modernisers and the more traditional members of his party together, a partnership that's not always harmonious. Vicky Young, BBC News, Westminster.
Researchers have developed a new technique which they hope could significantly improve the success rate for women